Coming up on Fulton Today, voters not taking advantage of early voting have one last opportunity to make their voices heard. Also, commissioners hear what citizens have to say about the 2018 millage rate. And later, Fulton County highlights the artistic abilities of those with disabilities. That and more starts right now on Fulton Today. Welcome to Fulton Today, everybody. I'm Shania Chavis-Rucker. The general primary runoff is next week. That's when voters who did not take advantage of early voting will have one last chance to cast a ballot. Joining us now with vital information about this election is Registration and Elections Director Richard Barron. Mr. Barron, thank you for joining us on Fulton Today.
I appreciate the invitation. Thanks.
So early voters have had multiple locations to cast the ballot, but that will not be the case on Election Day. Explain.
On Election Day, it's prescribed by law that voters have to vote in their assigned precinct, which is the opposite of early voting, in which a voter can choose to go to any of the locations that's open.
And Rick, if you didn't vote in the general primary, can you still vote in this runoff?
You can vote in this runoff for the general primary runoff if you didn't vote in the general primary. If you voted in the primary and you voted Republican, you have to vote Republican in the runoff. If you voted Democrat, you have to vote Democrat in the runoff. If you voted nonpartisan, you can either vote the nonpartisan ballot or you can choose between the Republican or Democratic ballot. So you do have a choice. If you didn't vote, you can choose from either the nonpartisan ballot, the Democratic ballot, or the Republican ballot.
And tell everybody about when the polls open and close on Election Day, and then again, remind viewers about the acceptable forms of ID they need to bring.
The polls are open on Election Day, July 24th from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The voters need to bring a form of photo identification, which can be driver's license, passport, tribal ID, military ID, any type of government assigned ID with a photo on it, like if you're a government employee, anything along those lines.
Mr. Richard Rick Barron, thank you again for joining us on Fulton Today. Good to see you.
Thank you, Shania, for having me.
For information, including sample ballots to look over before you head out the door, you can log on to fultonelections.com. Our other big story, Fulton commissioners invite the public to address the 2018 millage rate. During the one and only July BOC meeting, two public hearings were held for county citizens to offer their input about this year's millage rate.
Fulton County will get what I consider to be a windfall from the current increased assessments. I speak in favor not just of maintaining the millage rate, but I would encourage you to lower it.
My house went up in value by the price I paid for it 25 years ago. The difference between last year and this year essentially is the price I paid for it. My taxes are going to increase tremendously.
As a Fulton County resident, I look forward to how public policy will be shaped in response to these problems and these hearings. Thank you for the opportunity for input.
The millage rate helps determine just how much you have to pay in taxes. And if you would like your voice on the millage rate to be heard, there will be one more public hearing during the board's regular meeting on August 1st.
And the vote is open to.
The Sheriff's Office welcomes in a big new hire. Lieutenant Colonel Adam Lee is now the new Assistant Chief Jailer. With over 3 decades of law enforcement experience, the Lieutenant Colonel comes out of retirement from the Atlanta Police Department's Major Crimes Unit, which also is known as the Hat Squad. Sir, welcome to Fulton County and welcome to Fulton Today.
Thank you, Shania, for having me today. I really appreciate this opportunity to speak with you.
So first things first, tell everybody what it means to be the Assistant Chief Jailer.
In a nutshell, I'm responsible for the operations portion of the jail. That means everything that is physical that occurs. When an inmate checks into the jail, they go through a process which is administrative. After that, everything is an operational procedure. So I'm responsible basically for that part, the physical workings of the jail, which includes security.
And clearly you couldn't stay retired. You accepted this position after 4 months of retirement from the Atlanta Police Department's major crime section, as we mentioned. What was so appealing about this position?
Well, when I retired, I assumed that I would be going back to work. I knew I didn't want to just sit at home. So I started looking for law enforcement positions, and this position actually intrigued me because it was so different from what I was used to. And I just wanted to be challenged in my next job. I knew if I got a job as a police officer again, I wouldn't receive the same type of challenges that I'm receiving here working with the Fulton County Sheriff's Office.
And sir, finally, just talk to us a little bit about your management style and what kind of goals you have for this division.
Well, I wholeheartedly believe in transformational leadership. That is basically when a leader identifies a need for change, and he encourages, inspires, and motivates the members of his team to join him in making those changes, those necessary changes. I also subscribe to charismatic leadership. And in that portion of your style, you have to get people to like you. If people do not like you, they will not work for you. So I believe in setting up a rapport with people initially before you make any changes to the organization or the agency. One of my goals is to get others to see a need for change, which I believe will foster growth and development. I just want the citizens of Fulton County to know that I am committed to doing this job and that I intend to provide them with the service they deserve and expect from me. And I am assuming that they have high expectations.
Well, again, Lieutenant Colonel Adam Lee, thank you so much for joining us on Fulton Today. And again, sir, welcome aboard.
Thank you for providing me with this opportunity to be with you today.
The Lieutenant Colonel, along with Sheriff Jackson and other command staff, are hoping you will take part in the office's 8th annual Homeless Initiative. This year's event takes place Saturday, August 11th from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. in front of the Fulton County Courthouse. The Sheriff's Office and its chaplaincy program is looking for volunteers and donations by August 8th.
Sheriff Jackson's motto is homelessness is not a crime. The Homeless Initiative goal is to provide those who are less fortunate with basic hygiene items, a free meal, health screenings, clothing, and spiritual counseling.
So if you want to donate, here are some of the items needed: soap, socks, baby wipes, towels, and trash bags. All of the donated items will be dispersed during the Homeless Initiative. Now, to schedule a pickup, just contact Lieutenant Edwards at 404-612-3113. The newest members of the Georgia Bar are officially sworn into legal service.
I, say your name, swear that I will truly and honestly.
Assembly Hall in downtown Atlanta was filled with family and friends as they witnessed their loved ones take the oath of admission into the State Bar of Georgia by presiding Judge Belinda Edwards.
So help me God. So help me God. Congratulations.
Of the 45 men and women taking their oath, some were first-time lawyers while others relocated from another state. After years of studying and testing, it was a day everyone was happy to see finally arrive.
I feel elated, actually. My wife's actually an attorney as well. Definitely on the day that I did find out about the bar, I almost jumped through the ceiling, and it was definitely a joyous moment.
I'm originally from Florida, so I had to actually learn Georgia law. And I actually graduated from law school 3 years ago. So for working 3 years and then deciding to take the bar, it was definitely an experience. I had no social life. It was during the winter time, so I just was shut in and stayed in, but I'm glad that I took it and passed it on the first try. So it was a great experience, and I'm glad it's over with.
During the ceremony, guest speaker and current Georgia Supreme Court Justice Harold D. Melton shared his journey with the class and encouraged them to trust their training. After the ceremony, the inductees and their families gathered for a celebratory fellowship hosted by the Clerk of Superior Court. And still to come on Fulton Today, Fulton's chairman welcomes more support from business leaders wanting to put an end to sex trafficking in the county. It's a part of our district-by-district coverage next. Fulton partners with businesses in the fight to end sex trafficking in the county, and they honor one of the longest serving local television icons. Here's this week's district-by-district coverage. We begin with Chairman Rob Pitts, who's getting support from business leaders who want to help end sex trafficking in Fulton County. The at-large commissioner, along with Fulton Police and members of the Task Force on Sex Trafficking, well, they all went out to business along Fulton Industrial Boulevard to inform them of the county ordinance and state law requiring signage that provides the National Sex Trafficking Hotline and information about sex trafficking.
It's going to be an ongoing effort, but the catalyst now, though, is because the Super Bowl will be here the first week in February. We felt a sense of urgency to get the word out.
Earlier this month, the chairman launched the expanded outreach effort in the Fulton Industrial District aimed at fighting sex trafficking. In June, the Board of Commissioners adopted legislation sponsored by Chairman Pitts, adding restaurants to the list of businesses required to post the signs in the Fulton Industrial District. The chairman also created the Fulton County Sex Trafficking Task Force, who've already launched a public awareness campaign complete with a public service announcement and billboards. Meanwhile, the chairman and Commissioner Liz Hausman get a look at the soon-to-be new Smart Hub for the United Parcel Service along Fulton Industrial Boulevard. The commissioners, along with top staff from Fulton's Finance, Public Works, and Economic Development departments, toured the UPS facility, which will be the company's second largest Smart Hub in the country.
It's very exciting to see this about to come online, providing hundreds of jobs for the local economy and moving about 1 million packages a day at the peak operations of this facility. So it's very exciting to have this in Fulton County.
We're looking at about 1 million packages, and then our first quarter of 2019 and second quarter of 2019, we'll be going to identify an additional volume that could come in here, and eventually looking at a 1.2 to 1.4 million packages to be sorted in this facility on a daily basis.
It's a huge facility. It's going to be increased capacity in our network and a ton of jobs available all around the clock. If you're interested in applying, go to upsjobs.com.
UPS is an American multinational package delivery and supply chain management company. The company will open the Smart Hub facility in November. In District 6, county leaders ceremoniously marked the completion of a sidewalk improvement project along Old National Highway. The $4.3 million project, which began in March 2017, includes 5 to 6 foot wide sidewalks on both sides of the highway from Flat Shoals Road to Sullivan Road.
It was about 2.5 miles long altogether, $4.3 million that was funded jointly between the City of College Park, Fulton County, as well as the Georgia Department of Transportation. 80% of the money came from the Georgia Department of Transportation.
This project proves that by coming together, the state and the county and the city, we're so happy to have representatives of the city of South Fulton here as well. It's by coming together that we can move forward to impact people as well as projects. So we want to say thank you to everybody who has come. This has been a 10-year project that could not have been done without a dedicated staff and without all of our partners. Thank you, everyone. And we're moving on now to phase 2 of the sidewalks project.
The Transportation Division of Fulton County's Public Works Department led the improvement project, which includes new signage, better traffic signals, and landscaping, just to name a few. And finally, Fulton commissioners thank a local TV icon for her 45 years of service to Atlanta and Fulton County. Jocelyn Dorsey is officially signing off as WSB-TV Director of Public Affairs and Editorials. Ms. Dorsey was the first African-American anchor of a Channel 2 newscast as well as the first African-American news anchor in the entire Atlanta market.
Atlanta was a very different city back then, 1973, and quite frankly, it was a little rough being one of the first African-Americans on the news in terms of doing a newscast. Playing such a prominent role, I was kind of out there, and people had mixed reactions, but we've come a long way.
As Jocelyn Dorsey Appreciation Day in Fulton County, Georgia.
Commissioner celebrated her service with an official day in her honor.
Jocelyn was one of those folks like Walter Cronkite, none of you remember him, and others that whose presence made people trust the news. And Jocelyn was one of those folks who made people trust the institution.
In honor of all of her work through the years, the Auburn Avenue Research Library is going to house her papers and her works there. Those who are not as familiar with her work as a true trailblazer as I am and some of the others, you can go there and read and learn all about this wonderful, wonderful treasure for Atlanta and Fulton County.
Ms. Dorsey, a multi-Emmy Award winner, is also executive producer and regular contributor to WSB's People to People, a weekly half-hour public affairs program.
Jocelyn Dorsey laid the foundation, and I am eternally grateful because had it not been for Jocelyn, I would not have had a path to even peer through the door of journalism in this market and throughout the nation.
She was inducted into the Georgia Association of Broadcasters Hall of Fame in 2016. Now you can catch more of your commissioners at work all this week with the rebroadcast of the Board of Commissioners meeting right here on FGTV. And still to come on Fulton Today, those with disabilities show just how talented they are. We'll share their story when we come back. Did you know that there are over 6,000 households in Fulton County where grandparents or other relatives are raising children of other relatives? Well, Fulton's Senior Services team tells us that these arrangements are usually the result of emergency situations, and therefore the caregiver may not have the adequate resources to take in the children. Dr. Pamela Rochelle is the director of Fulton Senior Services Department. She is here with some information about the Kinship Care Program, a program designed for these very caregivers. Dr. Rochelle, good to see you.
Hello, thanks for having me.
So tell us about some of the services available through Kinship for grandparents raising grandkids and other younger relatives.
Well, there are many organizations throughout Fulton County. One is a part of the Fulton County Department of Family and Children's Services. There is a navigator for Kinship Care as part of Fulton County DFAC's Department of Family and Children's Services. We also have nutrition support through our Board of Health, our WIC program. And we also have in Fulton County through our juvenile justice system, we have a program to support family members that are raising children for other relatives. We have programs through our juvenile justice. And then we have a variety of different partners that are providing support groups because, again, being in this situation all of a sudden due to an emergency, support is often needed, and having the opportunity to really talk to other relatives, grandparents that find themselves in the same situation is really very, very helpful.
And we mentioned that oftentimes these caregivers find themselves in this situation unexpectedly. What are some of the other challenges?
First of all, because it's an emergency situation, something that they're not expecting, many times the home is not prepared to take in a child of any age. So there's no extra bedroom and no extra bed, for example, for this child to come into the home. Also, food and food budget is impacted because there's another child in the home, another person to feed and provide a meal for. Finally, there are issues with clothing. Many times a grandparent or other relative, they just don't have clothes in the home that would be suitable for a child. And finally, many times these relatives find themselves really changing their routine, and they become isolated because they are enjoying their opportunity to help a family member, but they have to change their routine, and sometimes that impacts their daily schedule.
And your final thoughts, Dr. Rochelle?
For grandparents and other relatives that find themselves helping family members by taking in children and helping to raise them, you know, it just really takes a village, and to have relatives step up in this way is so important. And so just thanking those relatives for taking on this responsibility and encouraging them to call our Star Line and to get connected to the resources and information that can help you on this journey.
Well, these caregivers are very special people. Dr. Pamela Rochelle, Director of Fulton's Senior Services Department, always great having you. Thanks again for your time.
Thanks again for having me.
Fulton celebrates the 28th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act with performances and special thanks to its community partners. Held this year at the West End Arts Center, the Disability Awareness Expo showcased performers and artists with disabilities.
28th anniversary of the ADA, I think we've come a long way. I still believe people early on felt that disability access in the ADA was about whether people with mobility impairments could get into the building, people who used wheelchairs, but we've come such a far away from there.
Earlier this year, the county kicked off its multi-department collaborative exhibit titled Creative Like Me. Those works of art were a part of this program.
Oh, it's amazing because it gives them an opportunity to show that their talents are just like, if not better than many, but just a little different. They're a little different, but their talent is amazing.
The anniversary marks the 1990 signing of the American with Disabilities Act. That legislation provided civil rights protections to individuals with disabilities in the workplace, in the government, and in public settings.
There seems to be a perception in the United States today that handicapped people aren't quite worthy of the lifestyles that we deserve. So we're trying to show them that we can provide some positive energy out there for the world to see.
Fulton's Office of Diversity, Civil Rights, Compliance, and Disability Affairs, along with the Departments of Behavioral Health and Arts and Culture, all partnered to host this year's fabulous event. And up next on Fulton Today, some artistic teams show off their talents in front of their peers. Stay with us, everybody. Teens on summer break are enjoying a different type of classroom.
I don't want nobody, come on, to give me nothing to what?
The Arts and Culture Department once again is hosting its annual Teen Artist Academy at multiple arts centers locations. While in the program, teens 13 to 18 years of age who are serious about art receive concentrated instruction and training on various forms of art from professional artists. Now, whether it's dance, theater, creative writing, film, or video, the teens have been enjoying the opportunity to take a summer program geared toward their interest.
I think overall this helps to develop lifelong learning skills, coping skills, and just helping the kids to interact and become creative problem solvers.
The Teens Artist Academy ends on July 27th. Now, on this day, all participants will take part in a final production or display their art in an art exhibit for the entire community. To learn more, log on to fultonarts.org. And finally, when the lights and cameras were turned on, some county interns went into action. Interns in the Clerk of Superior and Magistrate Courts Junior Deputy Clerk Summer Internship Program took over our FGTV studio and our control room to produce their very own mock newscast.
Welcome to News Update. I am Rhoda Vickers.
And I'm Anaya Johnson.
Fulton commissioners take steps to.
After choosing which position best suited them, the students learned from FGTV staff how to operate the equipment and were given a crash course in television lingo.
Welcome to News Update. I'm Rachel Shaw.
And I'm Nicholas Edgerson.
Though a career in media may not be in their futures, the students all enjoy the change of pace.
I think it was a great experience. It gave insight on what actually goes on in a production studio, as well as gave you good information of how everybody needs to work together to become like one. Everyone needs to work together to be a great team.
Teamwork is key because if just like one person is out of place at one point, the whole section, or even the whole newscast itself just fall apart.
The Junior Deputy Clerk Summer Internship Program exposes rising 10th through 12th graders to careers in local government and gives them community service hours required for high school graduation. We sure love having them. Now, before we go, our reminder that we'd like to connect with you online. Be sure to follow FGTV on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for up-to-date Fulton County news. And you can watch a replay of this show and other FGTV programs anytime on our YouTube channel. Well, that does it for this edition of Fulton Today. I'm Shania Chavis-Rucker. Thank you so much for watching. Join us each week for news around and about Fulton County.